Inside Out. Now, before I see the second movie, which does come out later this year in June, I wanted to review the original Inside Out, which is highly beloved by millions, made a lot of money at the box office, and this is something I have been wanting to do for a few weeks now, is to review this movie. So now that I'm starting to review this film that came out back in 2015, will this movie be good, meh, or in between? Well, let's get started off with the review. The story. So the plot of Inside Out follows these group of emotions that are in Riley's head, but then things go horribly wrong when joy and sadness get out of Riley's head due to an incident, and now it's up to fear, disgust, and anger to try anything they can do to make Riley happy. And while that plot may sound a bit basic and simple on paper, it's actually a bit more complex if you actually see the film for yourself. I'm not going to spoil the message for the movie, obviously, but this movie is pretty complex in terms of its messaging and what it's trying to tell the audience. And if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It comes towards the end of the movie, and the message is super powerful and can really mean a lot to a lot of people. And it impacted me in a way like no other. Also, the story structure is not predictable at all, and it's highly engaging, very entertaining, and never really bores you at all because all the stuff that the movie is doing and how creative the movie is really keeps you engaged and has your eyes glued to the screen the entire time. This is unlike anything that Pixar has ever done in terms of their scripts. And well, I can confidently say that they have outdone themselves here, and it really shows why that Pete Docter is one of Pixar's greatest directors out there. And I just can't wait to see what else they're going to have more in store for the sequel. But for the first movie, the script here is not only amazing, but it is just phenomenal. It really may not look much on the outside, but on the inside, there is so much more that you can imagine. The animation. Now, for the animation of Inside Out, it's very different compared to other Pixar movies. Like Pete Docter's last movie, well, the one that came after this one, Soul, he did something very similar here, where he had two different contrasting styles together. One was the realistic setting, of course, with Riley and the humans and the world that they were in. But then on the inside, there was like this cartoony and colorfulness to the inside of Riley's head that makes it both of the styles look different, but they both contrast very beautifully together. The color palette also is very iconic as well, and the emotions are all beautifully colored and they look very vibrant, and it just gives the movie a unique color and gives the movie its own identity. Also, it's without saying that the designs here are absolutely phenomenal. I've heard some complaints about the designs outside of headquarters that they look a little too simplistic, but I love their designs as well, even if they're a lot more simpler than our main characters. Like Joy, she perfectly captures joy or anger or sadness or fear or disgust. And Bing Bong as well, which he has a very creative design of how he's multiple different kinds of animals into one. And the human designs look great too. They look like most of other Pixar human designs, like from Toy Story and Finding Nemo, which I feel like the humans in those movies look so similar to here, but it's not a problem at all. I think it's actually a compliment. And the design of Riley looks great as well as the settings and stuff as well, especially like the inside of our house, which doesn't look the best. But hopefully we get to see that update later on in the sequel. Another thing the animation does very well is how the cartoony animation looks as well. A lot of movies try way too hard to be cartoony to the point that it's just obnoxious, but here they found a way to do cartoony animation correctly, especially with Joy's movements, and at times it can be very playful and it can be a lot of fun to watch instead of it being so exhausting that it's hard to look at. Also, it's without saying that the setting is beautiful in this movie. If you look at long term memory loss, it's very creative as well, to the train of thought, to headquarters, to even the dump. It's all highly creative and it kind of gives you a new point of view of what you are in your head. Even though it's not real, it can still give you a point of view. Just like Pete Docter's film after this, Soul, which gave me a new point of view of life. And well, I love the settings of the movie. They're very colorful, they're very unique to the movie, and it's unlike anything Pixar has ever done. The animation in here, again, just shows how Pixar is so incredible with their animation and how they always step up from before and how they can constantly improve and improve and improve. And Inside Out is no different. And honestly, I can say that this is one of Pixar's best looking movies, and this is definitely one of their best animations that they have ever done. The characters. Now, these are some of Pixar's most interesting characters that they have done, at least for the main characters. The other rest, like anger, fear, and disgust, aren't like much other than just who they are exactly in terms of their personalities, but they are still good characters in themselves. So let's get started off with the main character herself, Joy. Who you basically would just be happy. That's pretty much her character, except sometimes her character does develop and grow throughout the movie, which her character development is great throughout the movie. And sometimes her being too joyous and happy can kind of be her biggest flaw, but she is still a great main character. And while she may just look a bit simple as just the emotion that's joy, she has a lot more to her as you see the movie. Next up is Sadness, who she is probably one of the best Pixar characters out there. She may look basic as just the typical sad character, which could get a bit annoying, and it does in a funny way in the movie. She actually contributes a lot to the film for when a character is sad or during the message of the movie, which is powerful. And her involvement in the movie feels more important when Joy doesn't think that she's very important, even though Sadness, when you see the movie, she's a lot more important than you think, and she is a great character. Next up is Anger, who is basically just angry all the time, but he does kind of get more involved during the middle half of the movie, maybe for the wrong reasons, but Louis Black does a great job as his character and can be super funny at times.
These are my kind of people.
Next up is Fear, who he is a very funny character in the movie as well, of course by Bill Hader, who is a great actor and is very funny in this role, and there's some great slapstick humor with his character, but basically he's just very frantic and terrified all the time, and sometimes it can be really funny in the film and can of course again have some great slapstick shenanigans happen in the movie, which is great in the film as well. And then the final emotion here is disgust, who kind of has a bit of fashion to herself, and is of course the one that gets disgusted by absolutely everything, and that also can play a pretty funny part in the movie. But also, she can be a tiny bit helpful later on in the film with fear and anger as well, and her dynamic with Bill Hader and Louis Black with Mindy Kaling, all their dynamics is just hilarious together, and I love seeing all of them on screen together. And then there is Bing Bong, who is Riley's imaginary friend. And well, if you've seen the movie, you basically know everything about him. But I'm not going to say too much about him because that would be spoiler territory. But I will say about him is that he's a very good character. He's highly creative in his design as well, and I love his dynamic with Joy. And there's a moment with him in Sadness that is really powerful, and it's a great scene as well, and it kind of teaches you a lesson in a way. And then there is Riley, which something I love about this movie is that we're not only focusing on like these two main characters, Sadness and Joy, but we're also inside of a girl that also should be a character as well, and that's Riley, who she's trying to figure out and trying to like get used to her new home and in Minnesota to San Francisco, and that change is very difficult for her. It's very relatable, and well, if you've been in this situation before, I mean, I've moved many times, you can relate to her very well. She's a very interesting and a very good character, and I just love how we're focusing, like, not just on the outside, but on the inside of these characters. And then the rest of the other characters, like the mine workers, the unicorn, or anyone that's like outside of these characters, aren't really big characters at all. I mean, the parents do kind of contribute a little bit to the story, but not really till much till the end of the film. And well, the rest of these characters are absolutely amazing, and I love what Pixar did with each of them, and like making you think that they're just these typical emotions, but they have so much more when you see them. And that's why I love these characters so much in Inside Out, and why they are definitely one of Pixar's best characters and that Pixar has ever done before. Now let's move into the verdict and overall thoughts on the movie. Oh man, this is a movie that I have a ton of nostalgia for. It used to play in my school all the time, for good reason too. It's a very informational movie. If you've seen it, you will learn a lot of things. And while coming out of this movie, seeing it again for like the millionth time, I never get tired of this movie. Inside Out is one of Pixar's greatest achievements they have ever done, with a engaging and powerful story with an incredible message, beautiful animation that is highly colorful, and has two contrasting styles that work beautifully together and perfectly captures the emotions, designs, and everything, and characters that again captures the designs and the looks and the personalities, while also teaching audiences a beautiful lesson along the way with some heart tugging and powerful moments in the movie. If you're a big Pixar fan like me, please go watch this. And if you haven't seen this movie in years, go watch it again too, before you guys see Inside Out 2, which comes out in June of 2024 this year, please go watch this movie. This movie is absolutely phenomenal, and I think that it's one of Pixar. Not only it's like top 3 or top 2 favorite Pixar movie of mine, but I think that this is one of Pete Docter's best movies that he has ever done, and it's a perfect movie showing all your emotions. So the story is going to get a 10 out of 10. The story here is absolutely phenomenal and is absolutely incredible. Again, with a great pacing, it's not predictable and it's extremely powerful, and it's one of Pixar's greatest scripts they've ever done. For the animation, it's gonna get a 10 out of 10. This is some of Pixar's greatest animation that they have ever done, next to, say, like, Toy Story 4 or Pixar's Soul. While it may not have the most, like, realistic look to it, and if you compare this to the Inside Out 2, I will say that looks a tiny bit better, but here, to be honest, the animation here is fantastic. Color palette is fantastic, setting is fantastic, everything about it is fantastic, and the contrast between 2 styles is really what elevates it to making it one of Pixar's greatest looking movies. And the characters are gonna get a 10 out of 10 as well. Every single one of the emotions are highly funny, creative, and are really complex and interesting characters, especially Sadness as well, and how she contributes so well to the movie, and how Joy's character development is really beautiful if you do compare this to the first to the second, if you've seen that TV spot. But like, I just love all the characters in this movie, and Bing Bong is a big highlight of the film as well. But this is definitely one of Pixar's best main casts that they have ever done, and I think Sadness overall is my favorite Pixar character, one of them at least. The overall verdict of this movie is 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Phenomenal movie. And if you're not a Pixar fan, or if you're like someone that doesn't like Disney or Pixar, I mean, still see this movie at least. It's a great movie. But if you're someone that loves Pixar and loves animation, go support this movie. And if you love this movie, then just watch it a million times as you will. It's a fantastic film and one of Pixar's greatest works that they have ever done. And well, it's not hard to understand the movie that much. I know it says it has a pretty complex message, but like if you really pay attention to the movie, you're going to understand exactly what I'm talking about. This is an easily a top 3 Pixar movie for me, and Pete Docter's greatest works that he has ever done. Please like and subscribe everybody, and I will see you guys next time.